In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a fully working Kanban board and run it within Power Apps. I can take things from to-do, make them in progress, set them to done. I can click onto these different items. I can edit the title, the description, set the priority, and save. And I did all of this without writing a single line of code. This is Power Apps Code Apps, and it recently hit general availability. In this video, I'm going to show you what it does, how to build one, and how to push it into your Power Apps Studio so you can govern them in your Power Platform ecosystem. So without further ado, let's get started. My name is Howden Rashid, Microsoft MVP, MCT, and founder at Powercademy, where we help businesses in the Microsoft ecosystem empower their teams with AI and Power Platform. And today I want to show you something that really excites me, and I hope excites you as well. So Power Apps Code Apps just came out of preview and are now generally available. This is really important because Microsoft have effectively taken away the experimental label on these and have said, okay, now you can actually deploy these in production environments and start using them with your customers and within your businesses, of course. And Power Apps Code Apps are effectively what they say on the tin and are ways to build full web applications using frameworks like React and Vue and deploying them onto the Power Platform so you can govern them and manage them as you would a traditional Canvas app or a model-driven app. Now, a few years ago, I would have said, okay, citizen developers and people who aren't too familiar with traditional coding methods would really struggle using these, and they should probably just stick to Canvas apps and the traditional ways to build within the interface. But now with AI assistant tools like Claude Code and GitHub Copilot, these really just become more accessible and the power just kind of is in your hands at this point. You can build full working MVPs and give it to professional developers for code reviews to make sure everything is up to standard and then actually deploy them into production. So you can save a lot of costs doing a lot of the work yourself, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in this video. And what's even more amazing, with code apps, those MVPs don't have to fall out of your organizational governance. They're Power Apps, so you get the same benefits of the Entra ID authentication and data loss prevention policies that you know and love within the Power Platform interface. Today we're going to be building a Kanban project board. It's going to have drag and drop features, and this would be really hard to replicate within a traditional Canvas app. But before we get started, I really want to make you aware of the prerequisites that you need before you start building code apps within your environments. So the first three are taken from the Microsoft Learn website. You're going to need VS Code, Node.js, and a Power Apps CLI. And then of course you're going to need a Power Apps environment. You need code apps enabled, and I'll show you how to do that within your environment. And then also a Power Apps premium license to run the application that you actually deploy. We're going to be using Claude Code to create our code apps, so that is there as optional as well. It's one of my favorite AI tools. But before we get into it, let me just show you very quickly how you can enable code apps within your Power Platform Admin Center. Okay, so the very first thing we need to do is, of course, come into my Power Apps Studio. Then we come into Settings here in the top right-hand corner, Admin Center. Then we'll select Manage on the left-hand side and select the environment that we're going to be deploying the code apps to. So in this case, it's going to be YouTube development, and we're going to click on this. Then we're going to go to Settings. We're going to go to Product and then Features. And then what I like to do is just do a Control F and then type in code apps. Coded apps, code apps. And then we can see Power Apps Code Apps here, and this needs to be toggled on. So please make sure that you've done this before you do any other step in this video. Now that you've done this, let's get started with the build. Now before we build this out, the place that you want to start with is your traditional IDE, but in this case we're going to be using Visual Studio Code as ours. And I want to quickly explain what the difference is between code apps and a regular Canvas app. If you were to create a Canvas app, you would go to make.powerapps.com, you'd go in the studio, you'd go to create, and you'd create your Canvas app directly from the interface there. With code apps, we have to do everything from our local machine. Everything happens within VS Code and the terminal. You will build and iterate locally, and once you're finished, you will push that into the Power Apps Studio using our terminal. So the very first thing we want to do is set up our project. And the way that we start this is going into Terminal and New Terminal. And now the very first thing we want to do within the terminal is download the starter template that Microsoft has provided for us on GitHub. The best way to imagine this is choosing like a blank Canvas app template, but instead of getting a visual editor, we're just getting a bunch of files that we can actually iterate on to build our code apps. So the very first thing we've done is we've ran nps dgit, then we've taken that Microsoft GitHub template, like I said, and then we've given it the name. So it's my Kanban board. Then we want to access the folder that we've created. So to do this, we're going to type cd and then the name of the folder. So my Kanban board. And now you can see it's selected the folder that we actually want to do our work in. And then the final thing we want to run is npm install. And what this does is it installs all the dependencies that the project needs. These dependencies are pre-built packages of code, and you don't really need to understand what's inside them. You just need to understand that they need to be there, which is why we need to run this. So we'll just select enter. And then now that we've done that, it's installed successfully, and you can see it's added 373 packages. Now that we've got our project folder set up, we want to connect to our Power Platform environment. So what we'll do in this case is we'll run PAC auth create, and that will allow us to be authenticated we're going to pick our account, and then you can see it's authenticated successfully. Note that when it's authenticated, it's connected us to the default environment, which we don't want to deploy to. So the way that we can change the environment is running a simple command. Firstly, we're going to run pack org list, which is effectively going to give us a list of all of our environments with their IDs. You can see that's been added here. Now we're going to run pack org select, and effectively this is going to allow us to select the environment. So what we want to do is pick the environment ID that we want to connect to. In this case, it's YouTube development. We're going to copy it. We're going to remove environment ID, and then we're going to paste and select enter. You can see it'll do the authentication, validate the connection, and you can see it is successfully connected to our environment. The next thing we want to do is run PAC Code init and set the display name to Kanban board. And what this will do is create a config file that effectively tells Power Apps that this is a code app called Kanban board and it belongs in this environment. It's basically registering the app with the Power Platform before we've even built anything. If I quickly open the template folder that we've created, you can see we've opened that now. It's going to create a file called power.config.json, and this is the link between our local project and Power App. So we're going to select enter, and you should see this pop up here. And you can see here, we've now got the new file. Now the last command that we want to run before we actually start seeing some progress is npm run dev. And what this does is starts our local development server. So this is going to run the app in our machine, so then we can basically see the progress as we build. Any changes we make will show up when we refresh, so think of it like a preview. So now we've entered that, you can see it's given us a link to the local host, and if I copy this, come into my browser and paste, you can see it will give us this template since we haven't actually built anything yet. It's actually really cool. You can change to light mode, to dark, and if you click this, it's going to give you some notifications. So now we've got our starting point working. So what I'm going to do is select Control-C to just take me out of that preview mode and basically allow me to have access to my terminal again. And if I open up the right-hand side, I already have the Claude Code extension enabled. Now, since I've opened my project folder that I created using the terminal, it will have direct access to it. Now here's where it gets super interesting. Instead of me writing React code, I'm going to describe what I want in natural language and it will write the code for me. So the first prompt I actually want to do is to analyze what's in the project folder itself. So I'm going to just paste here, look at this project and explain the file structure. What's the main app component and where do I start editing? And if I select enter, it's going to tell us exactly what to do. You can see it's given us the file structure, it's given us the key details, and it's told us exactly where to start editing. You can see all of these TSX files, and in React, these TSX files effectively are the building block of your application. So now Claude Code has looked at the project and told me where everything lives. So the main file that I need to edit on is home.tsx. So now what I want to do, now that I've got my preview open and I've got the Claude Code talking to my files, is I actually want to start building my Kanban board. So I have a prompt that I want to paste into here. We want to say replace everything in this app with a Kanban project board. 3 columns, to do, in progress, and done. Each task is a card with a title, description, truncated to 2 lines, and a priority badge, so high, medium, or low with color coding, and assigned person initials. Add 8 to 10 sample tasks, spread them across the columns, dark theme, clean modern UI, use Tailwind. And if I select enter, it will just crack on and do that, and we should see the changes apply into the local host as well. You can see it's created itself a set of to-dos, and it's going to crack through these until it's finished. We're going to allow all edits for this session, and it's going to allow us to see the edits it's making. It's telling us it's all done, and here's what it's built, and it's asking us to run this command again to see it in action, so that's what we'll do in the terminal, and we'll select enter. It'll give us a new local host link, and we'll just copy and paste this to see the progress that it's made. And look at that. We've got our 3 columns, our task cards with priorities, and a dark theme, all from one prompt. Now, if I look at this, it seems like we have everything, but a project board is really not useful unless I can actually drag and drop these across the different sections. So this one I'm super excited about, but what we're going to do is we're going to add another prompt to actually give me some drag and drop functionality. So we can pick up a task card and move it between the columns. This is something that can be extremely hard to do within a Canvas app, and honestly, I'm not even sure it's possible without a custom component, but please correct me if I'm wrong. But you can see how quickly we're going to achieve this using Claude Code. So I'm going to go back to VS Code, and I have another prompt that I'm going to paste in. It says add a drag and drop so I can pick a task card and move it between columns. When I drag a card, it should have a subtle lift effect. When I drop in a new column, it should animate into place, and the column I'm hovering over should highlight as a valid drop target. So if I enter this, let's see what it does. And in just under a minute, it's finished, and it's given us the mechanics that it's created. And now when I run the local host, you can see I can drag and drop these different elements across the columns just as described. So it works really well. It's given us that effect, and you can see this would be extremely hard to create on a Canvas app, but we've created it in just a few minutes using Claude Code. Now I'm just going to add a bit more functionality to hit this point home. So I want to add a new task modal, so I can add a new task. We're going to come back in, we're going to send this prompt, and it's going to do that for us. This has also been finished, so I'm going to go in and test that. Add a new task. We're going to call this finish YouTube video. We'll set the priority to high, put the assignee to myself, and you should see it will give us the initials as well. add, and you can see it's created, and we can still drag and drop this as we would anything else. Now, as you can see, I can't click into these different actions. So what I'm going to do is create something so I can click into these and open it up as a modal and be able to edit and delete the details. So I'm going to add this in here and paste. And then you can see now I can click onto these different elements, edit them, delete them, and I can save them. And then we're just going to give a final prompt for some polish. And the prompt will be to add a task count badge next to each column header, add a search bar, add a filter by priority, and then just make everything feel and look polished. So consistent spacing, smooth animations, and a professional feel. So after this, we're going to finish it and then we're going to deploy it into Power App. You can see it's already noticed that the column already has a count badge. So if I come into this, you can see it already does. So it's super intelligent in understanding the code that's already existing. And instead it's just going to prioritize itself to add the search functionality, the priority filter, and just polishing everything within the app. It's given us a note of what's changed. And if I open this up, you can see we've got a search. We've got some colors now, we've got some filtering over here, and you can see this looks and feels like a real modern application. Now, if we were to build this in a Canvas app, it would probably take days, but you can see here we've just created a simple MVP in just under 10 minutes. Now what we want to do, we're happy with this and we want to deploy it into Power Apps. To do this, we need to run a few commands in our Visual Studio Code terminal, and firstly, we just want to exit this local host. So we're just going to Control-C to do that, and you can see it will give us this file path, and it will actually allow us to type again, and then we're going to run the command npm run build. And what this will do is compile everything into production ready files. It'll take all of the React component and bundle it into an optimized package called this, and we're just going to select enter. You can see it's going to crack on, build the client environment for production. You can see it's done. And now we're going to run the command npx power apps push. And what this is going to do is take the application and push it into Power App. We'll select enter. It asks if we want to put it into a specific solution. In this case, we'll select yes, and it'll ask us to get the solution name or ID. Now, if I come into the Power Apps interface, you can see I've got one called Kanban board. I'm just going to take the logical name of this. Copy, come into here, paste, and select enter. And it's going to freeze for a few seconds, but this is a good sign, meaning it's just going to push and deploy into Power Apps, and it will give us a success message once it's finished. You can see the app is pushed successfully, and it will give us a link to actually access it. So if I come into this, copy, come into here, and paste, make sure you're using the browser where you're actually authenticated. You can see that I'm running my full React application within Power App. I can share it with an email link, I can copy the link, I can add it to Teams, and I have full access to share this with people within my tenant. So Claude Code has effectively built it, and the Power Platform basically runs it, secures it, and governs it for us. And that's the difference between just vibe coding a React app versus building an actual code app. Now, if we want to talk about accessing this, I can come into my solutions, and I should find it in here after I give it a refresh, and you can see the Kanban board is in my solution. And if I come into this and I want to preview it, it's a bit of a frustration, but I can't come in and actually play it from here. What I need to do is go back, go into app, and you can see my React application will be here, and from here I can select play and I have access to it again. Now I just want to really quickly do a comparison of Canvas apps versus code apps and when you'd use each one. Now of course I discussed during the video, but I think just to summarize it, of course for Canvas apps we have fast no code building, we have access to our standard components like forms and galleries, and I would say the two main points for Canvas apps are of course citizen developers can edit it through the Maker portal. If you realize with code apps there's no way to actually edit it through the portal, you'd have to bring it back into Visual Studio Code and make the edits from there. And I say Canvas apps are great for quick internal tools. So for example, if you want to connect it to a simple SharePoint list and have a Power Automate flow, run approvals based off that, Canvas apps are still the way to go for that. But now when we're talking about code apps, of course, you get the custom UI and the full framework control that we just saw. If you really need that look and feel of a modern application, which Canvas apps can struggle to support, especially from a performance and component perspective, code apps is a great choice for that. Now, of course, if we just look at the pros and cons of code apps, of course, the pros, you get full UI freedom and you can use any framework, and you get modern interactions that Canvas apps just simply can't do. The cons, of course, is there's no visual editor, so you have to make the changes within VS Code at this time of recording. And here's a big one. End users need a Power Apps Premium license to run your code app. So to develop the app and deploy it, you don't need a Power Apps Premium license, but to actually run the code apps, you do. So that's code apps for you in a nutshell. Now, I'm not a code first developer. I'm all about the Power Platform, but you can see how easy it was to really bridge that gap between Pro Code and actually bringing it into the Power Platform interface for us to use. I just built a full React web application with drag and drop components in just over 10 minutes using Visual Studio Code and Claude Code, so you can really see the gap that this is addressing. Now, code apps with AI coding tools, I believe, is a combination that will fundamentally change the way that we build Power App solutions. Now, of course, I want to add a huge disclaimer here. I do not recommend or condone whatsoever taking code that you don't understand and putting that into production. I always recommend getting your code checked by someone who understands understands it and just using this to get a working MVP in order. But nevertheless, this is absolutely amazing, and I'm super excited to see what you build and what others build using these tools that are now available to you. I think the gap between citizen developer and pro developer is becoming thinner and thinner. And as citizen developers, if we're looking to really learn this stuff and apply it within our businesses, then understanding the fundamentals of programming like functions, variables, and loops would do us a great favor. And if you're already using these Power Platform tools, things like Power Automate and even Canvas apps, then you probably already have a good idea of how these work. But looking at this and seeing it in action just makes me incredibly excited for the future and what's to hold for the Power Platform and the Power Apps ecosystem. Anyway, where do you think it's going? Super excited to hear from you in the comments, and if you want any extra builds or anything that you want to see in action, like connecting these code apps to Dataverse, please let me know in the comments. Now, if you're watching this and thinking my team really needs to understand this stuff, that's exactly what we do at Powercademy. We run hands-on workshops to get teams up to speed on Power Platform and AI tools like this. If you're interested, no pressure, but there's a link at the top of the description to book a call with us or ask any more questions. And if we're not a fit, we'll tell you, but what's the harm in trying? But anyway, code apps in general availability, super awesome feature, super awesome tooling, of course, that we're using as well. So really excited to hear how you get on with it and the solutions that you're building with this too. Drop a comment, let me know what else you'd like to see, and yeah, I'm gonna go take a little break because we've been doing this for about a few hours. So yeah, gonna take a break from code apps, but take it easy and we will speak soon.